Hello and welcome to the CartonCloud Unboxed webinar series for 2025. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today, where we're going to focus on how to grow your 3PL with marketing and operational strategies for scalable success. We'll just give everybody a minute or so as people are joining, but I'll give a few ground rules of how we're going to go today. So we've booked in 45 minutes for the session, so there should be plenty of time for us to run through some tips and tricks and ways of working for you, as well as allow time for Q&A at the end. If you do have any questions, you will see in Zoom down the bottom, there is a Q&A little symbol. Click on that. Feel free to ask your questions at any time, and we will do our best to answer those at the end of the presentation session. Also, if you feel as though you've missed anything or we've skipped through something too quickly, no need to worry. The session is recorded. Tomorrow you will receive an email with a link to the recording, the slides, and also a comprehensive ebook regarding the marketing tips and tricks that we're going to run through today. So no need to worry about all the detail. You'll get that, and that will help guide you through and make you successful in your own businesses. Well, I think we have a bit of a quorum, so we will get stuck into the content. And as I said, we'll allow time for Q&A. Please ask your questions as they come up. As way of introduction, my name is Dan McDermott, look after marketing here at CartonCloud. Um, I've helped grow businesses locally and globally for over 25 years now. So hopefully some of the experience that I've had in terms of what it takes to be successful and to set businesses up for growth will be tips and tricks that I can share with you today. But more importantly, I'm joined by the logistics industry legend, Scott Murray. Scott, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. Scott Murray, VP of Operations here at CartonCloud. I have 20 years of experience in the logistics industry, so excited to share some tips and tricks with you all today.
Brilliant. Thank you, Scott. Well, like I said, we'll kick into it. Um, what we're going to cover today is basically two key parts. The first is around what are some of those low effort but high impact marketing tactics that you can deploy in order to attract new customers that you want to your 3PL service. So we're going to talk about how to set up a high converting website, how to ensure that your services are the ones that are front and center for people who are looking for those services in the market, and how to ensure that you are building trust and authority in your brand and your business in order to serve that market. And then once you've got new customers coming in, you've got to make sure that you're setting up for success. What does customer onboarding look like? How do you ensure your warehouse and facilities set up successfully to be effective and efficient in the way of your operations? And how do you make sure that you get into an automated life cycle to make sure that you're being profitable and being able to make sure that you're running your business most effectively? So what we're going to do is step through just a quick three-step sort of process in doing this, which is attracting the right customers and winning new business. So we'll focus in on that to start with. Like I say, once you've got them, how do you ensure that you've got all the information that you need to ensure that they're the right fit for your organization and that you're pricing it effectively to making sure that you can actually deliver on the promises you've made and actually be profitable in delivering those services? And then last and certainly not least is how do you onboard those customers successfully? How do you set yourself up for success? And how do you create efficiencies ongoing to ensure that you are profitable and you're paying your staff, you're making your money, and you're growing your business successfully? So let's get into winning some new business. As I said, we're going to focus on some low effort but hopefully high value tactics that will have real impact for you. So I'm going to run through a bit of a checklist of things here, and I'll deep dive into some of these more as we go. But there's a few key elements to it. The first is that some of us will remember the yellow pages and listings in the yellow pages of all the businesses, and why there was a lot of businesses called AAA, 3PL logistics services, was because they wanted to get to the top of the listing in that alphabetical order. Well, Google My Business is the new yellow pages. It's where people will be searching and looking for you. So how do you set yourself up to to be at the top of that listing and making sure that you're front and center when people are looking for help in what they need. The real key part of being able to do all of this is your website. And we'll talk about how to set up a great website for success. Because at the end of the day, this is your shop front to the world. So you want to make sure that it is presented clearly and that people are getting value and they're able to contact you and you're able to get in touch and have those business meetings quickly and effectively to continue to fuel your growth in your organization. These days, everybody is on some type of social media, whether that's on LinkedIn, or Facebook, Instagram, or sort of some of the main ones that you'll see our audiences are on. So, how do you ensure that you're there with them and that you're able to show your your brand, your personality, the culture of your business, and really show up for them in those locations and present yourself as a legitimate option for them to want to work with and do business? And it wouldn't be a marketing presentation if we didn't dive into some of the world of advertising. And it can feel a little bit scary and costly at times. So we'll give you some tips around how to get started on this. And Google Ads is a great way of being able to start with that, as well as some ways of being able to leverage the great work that you're going to do, setting up your foundational marketing work and expanding that out through social media channels as well. As I mentioned, if you're looking for really detailed information, any of these tips and tricks, we're going to send you a comprehensive guide that has checklists, that has lists of suggested vendors to use for different parts of this, and to really help step you through how to make this as easy as possible so that you can implement these today in your business. Or you can also use it as a foundational checklist if you're working with a marketing agency and be able to ask for their help in the right way, be able to sanity check what you're getting back from them, and be able to work together for your growth. So before we put anything in market, you've got to start with actually defining who it is that you want to serve. Or a fancy way of saying that is what is your ideal customer profile or ICP? Now, the reason why you want to do this is because you can't serve everyone. You've got to know what you're good at, what you want to deliver, and you've got to make sure that they understand that in their terms. So the first starting point to define your ideal customer profile is start with their key pain points. What can you address for them? So think about it in things like if it's an e-commerce that you're really good at wanting to manage, think about storefront integrations as such a pain point for them, or seasonality as they actually have Black Friday sales and that's the time of peak delivery. If it's in food and beverage, think about things like temperature control and product integrity of delivering those products out into the market. If you've got things like serialized goods, you need to consider really detailed traceability and inventory management in things like such as pharmaceuticals. Or perhaps you're managing bulk goods for customers. So how does container destuffing work? What's the pallet-based workflows that you have that set you apart and make you ideal to serve that marketplace? But also don't forget to write down some of the demographics and the key things that you think are important in helping identify those businesses, like the vertical industry that they're in. The location is critically important. Think about things like job title of who you want to be talking to in those organizations to win that business with, and think of things like an age profile. All of these things will help in terms of the way that you implement your tactics going forward as well. So, like I said, critical is your storefront to the world. How do you build a great website? Um, so, we're going to really walk through a bit of using the Zenith Warehousing 3PL example that you see on the screen, and just walk through 5 key ways for focusing on what is really good things that you need on your website, and that will help you drive that business going forward. So, the first is your domain name. So up the top there, what is your company name? What's your domain? How is it memorable, easy for people to understand, and relates obviously to the brand and promises that you have. So register your domain name and have that as the key element. The next is, as we said, you've gone through the problem, defining the problems that you solve best for customers. So make sure that you write down your services. What makes you unique in delivering those? What is different about the way that you want to deliver those services? And why would somebody want to engage with your business for those? Have a really easy contact us, and that's both contact details, as well as the ability to like request a quote or get in contact today, and really drive conversion of people coming to your site to wanting to talk to you. And the last thing is have FAQs. And we'll talk about why this is important as well. But having an FAQ section allows you to create really solid, easy answered questions and great content that Google loves as well. But whenever you're designing it, ask yourself the key question of, can somebody find the key information in under a minute? By doing that, that will keep you focused on making sure it's sharp, succinct, and delivering the perfect content that you need to set yourselves up for success. Next is having a look at, well, once you've defined those services, how do you want to tell your story? And what content marketing is just think about the fact that different people love to consume information in different ways. Some people want to dive in and read an article and really understand like what's possible, what's the trends, what's happening, and how can you be there for them. Some people would love to see a bit of a you know, a day in the life of your warehouse. Do a walkthrough and show film a workflow of somebody in your premises and bring that to life and have show the personality. And always remember that people buy from people. So don't be afraid to show the personality of your business, what makes you different, and why somebody would want to work with you and build that trust and authenticity with them. We'll get to the point that no better marketing will be done than by your own customers. So the more content and case studies and information that you can get from them, the better off you will be as well. A great tip for this is using a tool like Canva to create reusable templates so that this doesn't become a burdensome or hard for you. It becomes a part of your operations and you can regularly create new content in terms of all those different formats using the platforms to help be able to bring that together really easily without having to take hours and hours and hours of creation and editing and content from that perspective. So really feel as though how do you do this regularly in your business? Now, let's have a quick look at Google and why it's important and the different things that you can do to be top of the listings. So the example that we have here is somebody searching for a 3PL warehouse in Kansas. Now, up the top, the first box that we have there is you'll see a little word called sponsored. So these are the people who have actually paid for Google ads. So they've actually put themselves front and center to be the top of those search results. So the sponsored Google ads are the ones that come up the top. So you can see there, Red Stag Fulfillment have gone through the effort of defining keywords, positioning themselves, and paying Google to be at the top of that listing. Under that first box of those three that are sponsored ads, you will see places. This is your Google My Business listing. So as we said right at the start, this is so important for you because it is the second lot of results that appear on the page. And as we know, location is such an important part of delivering these services. So make sure you're there and being able to be front and center for that. If you drop down below the map, the last point there is what's called optimized search results. And this is where your website, things like your FAQs, your customer testimonials, the services that you've defined and you can deliver are also critically important. Because if you've done a good job of writing those up on your website, Google picks that up and will put you top of the list in terms of those optimized search results. So just think about that in terms of how you want to go about it. And it gives you some reasons to think about what is it that you want in your marketing mix in order to where do you appear on that page and be able to engage effectively with the audience. So let's have a look at Google Ads. Um, like I said, it can feel a little bit daunting, but it's actually the platforms in terms of both Google and Meta for Facebook and Instagram have done a great job of setting up really easy navigation and step-by-step processes to help guide people. At the end of the day, they want your money. So they're going to make it as easy as possible to try to do that effectively for you. So it is there to help. The first thing with Google Ads is just connect your Google My Business to your Google account. And you can go through that step-by-step process. In the guide you'll get, we'll give you tips and tools to use around some keyword analysis and define using your ideal customer profile to be able to put in some parameters around that and set some bids for actually appearing in those search results. You don't need to spend a lot of money. It can be really cost effective to really, if you're focused and you know where you want to be delivering your services, it's a great way to extend your reach without having to spend a fortune. In terms of things like social accounts, set up your business social accounts, your Facebook account, Instagram, LinkedIn. Um, Use that great content that we created earlier, and post them on those accounts. Also have individuals from your business post them. Have your leaders be posting those there as well, because people want to engage with people on these platforms. What you can do from there is very easily connect your business account to the ad platform in Meta and then boost those posts. And what boosting means is that it will extend out into that ideal customer profile that you've identified and extend your reach again really, really cost effectively. You can put $10, $20 as a boost things, and it will get the message out and be able to resonate into that audience beyond the people who know you and have already identified with your brand. So really think about how you can do that easily, and really cost effectively. Now, the last tip that we're going to give is something that really is so important throughout all of these aspects, and that's really critical to setting up your success. And like I said, the best sales and marketing person you'll ever have is your own customers. So don't be afraid to ask for a Google review from them. There's nothing like a five-star review and a quotable quote to bring others in and give them the confidence that you are delivering a great service and that you can be trusted in what you say you're going to do. So make sure that you incorporate that throughout as much as your marketing efforts as you can. Um, and don't be afraid to also join industry groups, keep up with trends, understand, it's a competitive landscape, but everybody also knows each other in the industry. Be part of those forums, stay up to date, and make sure that you're keeping up to date with what's happening in the industry. The last little tip that I'm going to give here is be where your customers are. So if you've done a good job of understanding who you want to serve, then think a bit laterally around like where might they be online. The example I'll give is a 3PL customer of ours, um, who joined a mothers group on Facebook. You might be thinking, why would that relate to 3PL logistics services? Well, the reason is that the person who started that Facebook group is a very high profile e-commerce influencer. So who do they attract to the group? Like-minded people. So there's a lot of new mothers with an entrepreneurial spirit who are in this group who are talking about, ideas about wanting to launch their own, next e-commerce darling to the world. And this person is able to be there, be part of those conversations, be supportive through that process of people wanting to start these businesses and have that entrepreneurial there and be able to offer the 3PL services that they need to make their dream a reality. So think a little differently about where your audience might be there for them, be authentic, be trustworthy, and grow a relationship together, and amazing things can happen. So hopefully that gives you a foundation for what are key elements that you can do in order to set up your business for success and start seeing those customers come to your site, start getting those inquiries coming to your business and being able to turn it into real opportunities and new business for you. But once you've got that, the next key is making sure that you are set up for success. Scott, has to happen from here?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Uh, so yeah, once you've set up your website and you've got a lovely little lead funnel, hopefully you're getting lots of RFPs and RFQs and general inquiries through that website, and getting visibility out into the market. So if I'm going to focus on how you identify the right customer fit and what are some of the pricing considerations that you should take. So some tips from me. First and foremost, review their stock portfolio. What vertical do they fit in? Do you need to be aware of things like hazardous materials or any special licensing requirements to store those goods? Do they have expiry dates or batch controls? Or what is their business model? Are they fulfilling direct to consumer or other businesses or potentially like big cross-dock facilities like the Walmarts and the Targets? Um, Validate the data. I think often the data is forgotten about, and we hear stories of customers quoting prospects who are saying volumes of like 4 to 5 thousand orders a month, only to realize that it's actually 2,000, and that can have a pretty significant impact on your profitability. And the headcount that you're carrying in your facility. To make sure you're digging into the data, having a look at the volumes. And I guess with that, look for the peak seasons. Are they very heavy around Christmas and Black Friday, or are their marketing teams, doing monthly pushes to increase sales throughput? I think that's really important when it comes to your headcount as well, because you might, rather than holding like full-time headcount, you might focus on casual labor instead to deal with those peak seasons. Understand the handling requirements. Do you need any additional equipment? Do you have the right handling material inside your facility already, or do you need to invest some more? And the integration requirements, I think this is also something from my perspective that I think is sometimes forgotten. Um, you know, what are the requirements that they need from an integration perspective? Are you able to give them an indication of pricing, or at least being explicit that that will be an additional charge later on? But above all, it's making sure that they're the right fit. Are they the right fit for your industry and where you're currently sitting in your journey as a 3PL? You might be a predominantly transport business. Do you really want to get into high volume fashion, as an example? Are the volumes too high or low? Or do you currently have the right people or tech in place to service that account? Once you've gone through all that and hopefully successfully landed that customer, how do we then go about bringing them on board and making sure everything is set up for success? So I'm going to go over four key components in detail. So I'm going to cover off integrations first and foremost, then about how we do that move in and making sure the warehouse implementation goes smoothly. Focus on some automation and optimization once they've been up and running for a set period of time. And then making sure that obviously our rate cards and our billing component is set up for success. So let's start with integrations. I think at times this can be a little bit overwhelming if you haven't had too much experience on the integration front. But I can break it down into four key components for you. So the first and foremost one that I think is order sources. The last thing that we want to do, especially if we're processing higher volumes, is having to end up in a position where we're trying to key in orders manually. So being upfront with how are we going to get those orders into the system? Is that going to be through like a customer portal when the customer is going to be keying them in? Is it going to be by way of like flat files and CSV uploads, or potentially it's going to be an API integration? All of those things need to be outlined, and there's a lot of stakeholders involved. You've got the customer, potentially their system, they may have an ERP like NetSuite or SAP. You've got the WMS team and the 3PL as well. So making sure all of those stakeholders are engaged nice and early. Carrier connections. Do you already have existing connections into the carrier this customer wants to use? Are you going to be leveraging off brand new connections, or potentially using an aggregator like a ship station to achieve those carrier connections? Product master data. Again, we see so many times where, and I've had experience with this with myself when I was working in a 3PL, is that we didn't confirm that the product master data had the barcode information. So when we bumped in that customer, we were unable to scan. So making sure that, if all those things that you want to do from a workflow perspective are included in that SKU master data, because if it's not, the time in which it takes to gather that information it takes a very long time. And then lastly, any ad hoc requirements. Every business is different, so making sure you're taking the time to talk with the customer about what their special requirements are and what kind of visibility they need, because at the end of the day, as a 3PL, you need to try and provide as much visibility as possible to the owner of the goods. Also, next is the bump in. It's either the most exciting or the most stressful time for everyone involved. So here's some tips from me to make that as smooth as possible. Order freezes, I can't stress this one enough. I think it's the most critical, and that's making sure you're communicating with the customer to kind of put a hold on orders. It's very hard to set yourselves up for success if you're not given the time to do that. So communicating with the customer to try and place a hold on orders, making sure that we're not going to be fulfilling for X amount of days or hours or over a weekend, whatever it might be that you need to set things up correctly. What are the labor and equipment requirements? Do you need to bring on additional vehicles, staff, forklifts, whatever it might be, to make sure that you can do that effectively as possible? Split loads where possible. If you can control this, making sure the person that's sending you the goods sends it in a way that benefits you. For example, if you've got a particular area in your facility that you want to put all the bulk pallets, making sure they send it on a single load or across multiple loads, but just that so that when it arrives at your facility, you can run it straight down the aisle. And the same thing for the pick face locations. Make sure that they send it to you just on a single truck or split across many, but it's just pick face stock. So when it arrives, you know that all of that stock is destined for a particular area in your facility. And with that, prioritize the pick face locations first. To tie back into the order freezes, you want to be back to fulfilling as quickly as possible. You want to delight that customer. So prioritizing that will allow you to move past that order freeze portion as quickly as possible. And then plan your storage zones. I was working with a customer a couple of years ago who unfortunately they didn't have this information at hand, and they ended up putting all of the high velocity SKUs quite a ways away from their packing bench. And it's situations like that that can have a pretty significant impact of how quickly you can process orders. And also take a look at your SKU dimensions and weights. I mean, the last thing you want to be doing is rejigging beams and racking as you're trying to move in a customer. So once they've been up and running for a couple of weeks, a couple of months potentially, or a couple of days if you're really good, you can start to look at areas for efficiency. And at the end of the day, being a 3PL, you're trying to do the work faster, better, more efficiently so that you can increase your profit margin. So you can focus on some quick wins, especially on the administration front. So, a couple of examples is doing things like triggering stock replenishments and wave picks automatically rather than an administrator or someone in the office trying to do that. But then start to look at your end-to-end workflows. Now, are there any particular bottlenecks or any changes to a process that you think can be made? I was working with a business many, many years ago before CartonCloud, and we were averaging around 8 to 10 minutes per order across, about 15 pickers. Making a small change like printing the shipping label at the start rather than at the end, that got us back 3 to 4 minutes per picker, and that really adds up. So it can be really, really minor things, but it can have a really significant value. And then the client reporting and visibility, Carton Cloud offers a really great customer portal, and I really sing its praises. I think one thing that you can defer with it is a lot of those phone calls and emails and text message inquiries from your customers about, hey, what's happening with this particular shipment? Has it been put away yet? Have you guys shipped this order yet? Whatever that inquiry might be, all of that can be answered through the portal. So taking the time to sit down with your customer to teach them and show them what is capable through that portal, just to defer any of those engagements because any time back in your pocket is time saved. And lastly, for me, the most important, how we all get paid, and that's through the rate cards and billing. And it's really important to, sit down and spend the time here, because at the end of the day, if you miss a singular charge, that can really, really add up over time. So ensuring that you've taken the time to cover off every single aspect that you're doing with that customer. Consider things like applying higher rates to temperature controlled or hazardous materials or anything that's particularly oversized or out of general scope, because that's expected in the industry and you can do that. So that's a good tip there. Discounts for high volume clients. Now, this is one that I've seen used really, really well in the industry. When you're seeing a dip in your volume, offering incentives to your customers like discounts to put a sale on or something, really can incentivize them to put more throughput, and you can maintain that headcount within your organization. And applying minimum storage charges, I think, to help manage your rent and lease costs potentially, or whatever it might be within your organization, having a consistent level of income around storage is a really nice way to manage your business. And from the billing perspective, again, reduce reliance on those key personnel in the office. Look to automate the invoicing with direct connections into QuickBooks and other accounting platforms. Map out your charges into the correct charge classes or accounts. in those accounting tools, so that you can see where your profitability is sitting and where you're attracting, the most revenue, or potentially not getting as much as you would think that you should be. And ad hoc charges. I'm really fortunate in my role where I can go on site very often, and I love seeing ad hoc charges being applied on the floor. I think it's a really cool feature of our system, and it covers all of those weird and wonderful charges that happen at the end of your picking or put away processes. So making sure that any particular weird and wonderful charges that might not be automated but could be applied, make sure that you're plotting those out as your ad hoc charges. Um, I hope those are some good tips. I'll throw it back to Dan to wrap up and we can get into some questions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Scott. So, as we said, quick three-step process of make sure you're attracting the right customers and winning that business so that when people are out there looking for your services, they find you, they know what you can do, and they trust that you are going to be the best solution for them. Making sure that then when you get those inquiries, you make sure you know it's the right fit for you, how you can be successful, and that you price it accordingly so that you can be profitable in growing and scaling your business. And of course, last and definitely not least, is how do you onboard them for success, set up your facility in the best way possible, and how do you set up those operational efficiencies so that you can be as successful as possible and deliver the best service required to those new customers that come on board. Now, as we said, uh, that's the end of our session. We'd love to take any questions that you might have. But if you do have any questions that might come up over time as well, not just now, feel free to get in contact with us at any stage. Scott's kindly provided his email address there. Please, get in touch at any stage. As we said, we'll deliver a recording of this, the slides, as well as that comprehensive marketing ebook around how to grow your 3PL warehouse so that you have all the information hopefully at hand for you. Um, so we'll take a look at whether there's any questions that we have online as well at the moment. Not seeing any questions at this stage. Feel free to raise a hand or pop it in the Q&A box if you do have anything. Like I said, you will get all the information from us. Get in contact at any time through the support team, through Scott or myself directly. Um, we are more than happy to hear from you and answer any questions that you have and help support you. Awesome. We've got a few questions coming through, Scott. I think I'll read out the first one if you like. And the first one is from Fendi. What are best practices for maintaining a great client relationship?
Yeah, I can pick that one up. Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, it's comes down to transparency. I think for any customer going into a 3PL environment, especially if they've been managing it themselves, they're kind of entrusting you to do the right thing, and it's a big step for them. So I think making sure that you're as transparent as possible, regular communication. Again, customer portal is a great way where they can feel like they've still got a sense of control. So that would be, yeah, how I would manage that.
Yeah, and I
And
think
oh,
the
sorry,
only
you
other
thinking?
tip that I'd have there, Scott, is that first element of setting up what you're great at. So what is the service? What is the promise you're making to them? Be really confident that you can deliver on that. Because if you can tell them that you're going to do it, and then you do it, and then you deliver things like the client portal and a great customer service experience, that continues to build that trust and loyalty with them, and then they'll become that advocate for you. They'll give you the 5-star review, and they'll actually, help, do word of mouth and help you grow your business as well. So definitely think of that whole end-to-end process in delivering great customer service. Another question from Curtis here, Scott. Any examples you have of ad hoc charges?
Yeah, for sure. So stretch wrapping or pallet wrap, you may not apply that to every order, so that's a great one. You may have to apply special labels for a particular receiver. So you would have labeling fees potentially attached to ad hoc charges. Pallet issue fees, usually they might send just cartons or boxes as shipments, but when they send a pallet, you need to charge them for the pallet. So you would have pallet fees as an ad hoc charge as well. A great question.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. We'll give everybody a quick moment. If there's any other questions, please feel free to put them in. As I said, otherwise, feel free to contact us at any stage. But we want to take this opportunity to thank you for spending your valuable time with us today. We hope you got value out of this session, and we look forward to working with you to help grow your 3PL warehouse into the future. Oh, one last one, quick one. What are some effective marketing ideas for 3PL transport companies? Cool. So I think in terms of, like I said, the key thing is always just thinking about, well, who are you servicing? So if you're doing 3PL transport, really understand what you're great at. What is it that you're going to deliver? Because if you can really define that, you can help set yourself up apart from your competition. And that's hard to do. It is a competitive industry. You're doing similar things. But part of that is showing your people why you care so much about them, why they actually care about the customers that they're serving. So bring that to life, feature and showcase some of your drivers, some of your people who you've got in the business that are behind the scenes often, but actually are the ones that are really making that service hum and deliver for those customers. So just don't be afraid to get people to do some quotes, do some little videos. Nothing has to be perfect and polished. It's about showing how you are there and caring for the customers. And it's amazing what a difference that can make. So have a think about little things like that. And just bring your operation to life for people so that they get the best sense of what they're signing up for when they take you on as your as their 3PL transport service. Awesome. Well, with that, we will give everybody a few minutes back in your day. Thank you again. Look out for the email and we'll be in touch again shortly.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.